Welcome to another exciting episode of the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Brad Sugars, the Chairman and CEO of Actioncoach, and today we're diving into the minds of some incredible business leaders, uncovering their real stories, strategies, and the secrets behind their victories. It's not just about success, it's about the journey, the hurdles, and turning challenges into opportunities. So let's jump right into it.
To the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Lee Gray with Actioncoach Business Coaching, and my guest today is Damien Boehm, which I am sure I have mispronounced, but he said it can be pronounced any way in which it wants it to. So welcome, Damien. I'm glad you're here. And I want to let people know that I'm actually in the United States. You are located in Brisbane, Australia. Tell us about your business. What do you do?
Thanks, Lee, for the introduction and having me on. And yeah, you're right. My last name can be spelt probably, at least 3 different ways. And yeah, you can pronounce it any way you like. So yeah, that's fine. So yeah, what do we do? We're a commercial cleaning franchise, janitorial franchise based in Australia, but we are growing internationally as well. And I've had the benefit of being coached by an action coach for, I would say now almost over a decade now. So, I'm obviously familiar as well with Action Coach, and it's a big part of how we operate our business is using the principles and the systems that are part of the 6 steps and other things in Action Coach.
Love that language. Love that language that you have there. So I want to make sure that people are clear. You are the franchise owner.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So how many franchisees are there?
We have over 150 franchise partners. Yeah. So
brilliant. So let's start off with your top 3 things that made you successful in business, and how can other people follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, so it's hard to put it into a top 3. I think there are many things, and I think that's part of what's so overwhelming about getting started in a business is we always want to simplify it, and simplify it is best, but that is the overwhelm of getting started in your own business is realizing that it's not just marketing. You've got operations, you've got accounts, you've got all these sorts of things. So to be successful in business, for me, the first thing is always the mindset and the approach or your attitude towards things. So, because it doesn't really matter how good your strategy is, what your tactics are, or your business plan, because guaranteed in business and in life, things are not going to go according to plan. So if they're not going according to plan, then your attitude really does matter. And that would probably follow on to the next point that I would have, which would be you've got to have the right attitude, but you also have to have a plan, you have to have a structure, and then lastly, you've got to be able to persevere with it. So perseverance and just sticking with things, I would say, would be one of the key ingredients to success in business. Obviously, with that comes all sorts of things, working with people, developing business systems, marketing, sales, etc. But to me, it's at least those 3 cores you've got to get. And if you've got them, then, you can make some progress.
I love that answer. What I find most interesting is you didn't talk about any hardcore skill, really. You spoke about soft skills that can be learned, traits that can be learned. Some of us are lucky enough to be born with some perseverance, like you said, but it can be learned. And I really appreciate that you said those are the foundational things that made you successful.
Yeah, I'd say, because you can't, you've got to work from something. You've got to work, to me, and I believe, that's what testament to the Action Coach system is. It does really put a lot of focus as well on having the correct mindset about operating business. And it's one of those things. It doesn't really matter about all those other things, strategy, tactics, marketing plans, if you don't have character and identity. So you need to have the right identity And you need to develop character as a business person. And if you don't have character as well, people are not going to want to work with you, and people are not going to want to partner with you either. And that's a big part of business is other people. I mean, I would say, 80% of business is people. And then the 20% is, systems, tools, resources, etc.
I love that. 80% of the business is people. So you better be good with people.
Yep.
Right. And,
Yep.
and be good people. I think it starts with being good people. So back to the beginning, what made you decide to get into this business and why?
Certainly no one wakes up in the morning and decides that they want to be a cleaning business owner or entrepreneur. It's something that most people I speak to fall into it. And that certainly was the case with me. So I wasn't originally in commercial cleaning. Commercial cleaning wasn't my background. I was in real estate. I used to, in Australia, we call them townhouses and apartments. In America, I believe it's condos. So I was doing that and some commercial stuff. So I was working for a developer. Then I branched out on my own and started doing my own real estate projects and deals. And one of the challenges with that, especially when you start, is I was working from project to project. So I wasn't sort of building, a sense of rent roll. I wasn't, collecting, large rents. So the income I was generating was funding a project, then building it, selling it, and then I'd have a payday at the end. And that obviously meant that my cash flow was very lumpy. So, and sometimes non-existent. So, because not all the projects were successful. And that's, people say, well, the developer makes so much profit. Well, the reason they have to make that much profit is because there's probably going to be 2 or 3 projects that don't work out. And the transaction costs are very high. So it was something I recognized early on when things were going well in that business, that it would be good to have some steady income. And then when things weren't going so well, then I realized I needed to have some steady income. And I fell in one of the industries that I looked at that did have that was janitorial, commercial cleaning, because I saw it as contract based. And I saw it as something that I could get at least some income consistency, some steady flowing, and build it up as well if I was able to win contracts and set up cleaners in those cleaning contracts. And so that's how I initially started. Then everything sort of fell apart with what I was doing with my real estate, and that's a story for another day. And in fact, I wrote a book, and I recount some of those challenges of what ended up happening with my real estate ventures, and that got me full time into the cleaning, and that's what I started focusing on. And then I came at a certain juncture and ended up franchising the business. So, and that's when it started really taking off in a big way for us.
I love franchising. I love it. I think it's a great model. Can you tell us, is your book available? You want to give us a title?
Yeah, sure. I've actually got it here just in case you ask. So, clean up with franchising.
Franchising.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
So,
it.
yeah, book. So, it can be found on Amazon and other places. So, and really that is the background of, how I got started in the business, how to run a successful commercial cleaning business, why the franchise model in particular suits commercial cleaning. And also if you wanted to do master franchising, because we do have master franchises available, and how the model fits together with master franchising, because it's quite a unique model in particular in regard to having sub-franchisors in our system, as well as unit franchises who are operating their own commercial cleaning business. So yeah, the book covers all of that and what, sort of the founding principles of Urban Clean.
Love the title too. I mean, a lot of people, I have those kind of clients that are in the commercial cleaning, and I don't think any of them has not said they want a franchise. But franchising isn't as easy, right? You have to have what mindset, attitude, perseverance, character, identity, and all that stuff. But that, boy, to do what you did is a whole nother level of entrepreneurship, starting a franchise.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was getting into when I did it. And actually, my intention was not to franchise. I didn't want to franchise. And I felt, again, like the commercial cleaning business, it was a happy accident that I got into franchising. what started happening, so I started going to my customers and I graded my customers. This is a big part of the Action Coach. What they do is they start grading customers. So I thought, well, I'm going to grade my customers as well. So I started doing my A customers down to my D customers. And obviously I want to get rid of my D customers, but my A grade customers, they're ones who paid always on time, very profitable, easy to manage, just a pleasure to do business with. And I wanted more of them. So my thinking being, if I want more of this type of customer, uh, then it would make sense to interview them and find out what a perfect commercial cleaning service looked like to them. Because I thought if I knew that, then I could start looking at systems. I could start looking at my marketing. What do I need to change about my business so I could be that perfect cleaning service? And it turned out to be 6 things. So I identified from all these interviews I was looking for from a commercial cleaning service. And I went to work. So I started changing how we were training cleaners. I started training systems of communication. I developed an app, probably the first app in Australia at any rate, for real-time notifications about cleaners and what they did. And I started picking up work everywhere. So my sales conversion rates just skyrocketed. And that became a real problem for me because the way I was marketing was very much inbound marketing. So I wasn't doing a lot of direct marketing. It was mainly website lead generation type of marketing, which is what often you're encouraged to do, especially you read marketing books. It's all about inbound. But that became a significant challenge in the business because my cleaning contracts were all over the place. And the types of accounts I was winning were very profitable accounts, but they weren't large. So, and what I mean by that is that they weren't accounts where I could have 10 cleaners on site all night. They were small, a few hours of work a night. So my cleaners were spending a lot of time going from site to site. So much so that I had a bunch in one location in Brisbane. Your listeners probably won't know these locations. I'm not going to say them, but they're about an hour away from the rest of my cleaning contracts. I was like, I'm just going to put these things up for sale and I just sell the contracts. And that was sort of a watershed moment for us. So, because my phone didn't stop ringing and I wasn't giving these contracts away, I was selling them for decent prices. And that's kind of where the idea of franchising came in because I thought, wait a moment, all these people, they're ringing me and they're asking me, how do I get more work? How do I operate the business? What sort of equipment do I need? And I'm like, oh, I just want to sell some contracts. I'm not interested in helping you with all these things. And then it occurred to me, wait a moment, there is a big market here because I'm getting all these phone calls and they're all asking me the same things. It was obviously very attractive. I realized that cleaning contracts were assets in my business. Mm-hmm. So that changed my thinking. And then I thought, well, there's a demand for people who wanted to be able to win more accounts, but also be able to be having that initial training and that support and ongoing guidance. And that's where I thought, wait a moment, this could be an opportunity. And that's sort of led to us starting to franchise and then took off from there.
What a great story. And I love that you had those 6 pillars that you had decided were the fundamental foundation for delivering good service. That brought all the business to you. And then you now have that as a system that you could franchise out.
I mean, essentially, I mean, it seems like such a simple thing to do, but I'm amazed why I didn't do it earlier in the business. But will they call it an action coach blinding flash of the obvious? So that was yeah. So yeah, it was just like, well, why don't I just ask them what they want? And I did that. So
love it.
Yeah.
Well, all the epic entrepreneurs that are watching this interview, and they are worldwide, by the way. So it isn't just in the States that we have but they should be listening and taking notes on what you just said because you just gave a giant secret away for how to be successful, So thank you for that. So of all the time you've been in business, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome?
The biggest challenge, again, there's many challenges that you're going to face as an entrepreneur and in business ownership. But most of them are internal. Like the biggest thing that's in your way in business is yourself and how you think about things, how you approach things. And I would say you have to kind of always look at things with fresh eyes because as a business owner, you have 1 or 2 bad experiences and then it colors you for the rest of your business life if you're not careful. So part of, and I would say, what would I say? Like, for instance, franchising. Okay, so that's probably a good case in point. So I thought, I'm not going to franchise. I don't like franchise, and the reason is that before I got into the business, I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? I'll just go and interview, inquire about buying a franchise. I already set my mind on commercial cleaning. I thought the investment is low. There's an opportunity. I could see how the fundamentals and the financials worked. And I thought, well, I want to get into that industry. So I started making franchise inquiries and started talking to franchisors. I was going to buy a franchise. I was going to set up a franchise. And the thing that came very clear to me in the industry I'm in Australia at any rate, is that they weren't catered for entrepreneurs. So they were actually just, hey, here's some cleaning contracts. You've just got jobs at night time. And so, well, I want more than that. And so that had coloured my perception of what franchising was in my industry. And so I probably could have franchised a year earlier than I did, hadn't that sort of been my thinking and my sort of set on, no, I've said that's wrong. And often, you do the same thing with staff and with people, and you're like, oh no, I had a couple of bad staff members. All right, I don't want to staff ever again. I don't want to hire people because they're problematic. And you're like, well, no, you're probably problematic. And that's what I was thinking. It's like, I'm problematic. It's not people. And that's so, there's a lot of challenges that you're going to face in business, but it's getting in your own way is often the biggest one. And look, sometimes you are dead right about certain things. So I'm not going to say, look, don't listen to your gut. Don't listen to your initial, idea about things, because your gut is all of that is just an accumulation of experiences that gives you a feeling, but it is based on some reality. But you have to then question yourself and say, well, on what sample size is my reality based on? Is it because if other people have been extremely successful staffing or franchising or something like that, maybe the problem is not staffing or it's not franchising or it's not this way of marketing. The problem is I don't know enough. I've got to develop, and there's things that I need to understand more. I know. Sorry, that's a very
I
long-winded way of
love it.
saying it. Yeah.
I think it's very insightful, and people will, I think people will appreciate that you've had to do that, and continuously too. I love what you said. Maybe it's the sample size. If you hire 2 people and there are more than 1 billion people on the earth, maybe it isn't.
Yeah, maybe staffing's not the problem. Yeah, it's just you and them. Yeah.
You keep talking about, I am hearing a lot of growth on there. And I have a question about growth. How did you personally grow? What did you have to mostly learn to be successful? But you've had a coach a long time. Would you mind sharing? So sometimes, why would someone need a coach for more than 1 or 2 years? I mean, get where you want to go and be done with it. But you've maintained and retained a coach a long time. Why? Why is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things about you go through different stages of development as a business owner, and then your relationship with someone such as a coach will change as well over time. So when I started, so Bill Stack is a coach. He's based in Gold Coast, Australia. So I work with him, and when we first started, it was a lot just like learning the 6 steps, learning about mastery, learning about niche. And so I was learning about all of those parts, really fundamental, because I just didn't know it. Well, I knew it vaguely, but not in academic's the wrong word. I didn't really know it in detail.
You didn't have history.
Yeah, that's right. I did not have mastery, and I needed to go through and implement these things into the business. So it was a learning. Then you get past all of that, and you kind of know it. And look, and this is one of the traps you could fall in. It's like, man, I know more than my coach, right? Because I know my business really well, and I'm out in the field. I'm doing this. I'm facing the challenge. But one of the things that you don't get is you get. So sometimes it's frustrating that you think, hey, my coach doesn't really understand the business, but that's actually a good thing, because you're getting someone who doesn't have that inside information, and so you sort of lose the forest for the trees, as they say. And having someone who says something that you think initially you might like, no, that's not right, but then you you give it a bit more time and say, well, I can understand why they might say that or why they might ask me that question. Let me have a look at it a little bit further. So having that sort of sounding, I guess, soundboard, but it's a bit more than a soundboard. It's like an outside perspective, but who also understands, well, this is the principles that I built the business on. And I think one of the things that is, as business owners, it's really good. You don't want to have sycophants around your business. So you don't want people who just agree with everything that you say. You actually want to and that's what I often say, with like, a franchise network, it's like, I want different perspectives. I want people to challenge things in the business, because if everyone's just agreeing, I'll go nowhere, so I need to have an outside perspective, something that might, okay, that's kind of different, or that agitates me a little bit, but that in a good way, in terms of, and if you've got a coach who has your best interest at heart, you're going to do a lot of great things. And again, this is going back to you as a business owner, is like I think, it does come back down to character and developing yourself as a business owner, because, being able to stick through things, being able to see true value in business relationships and connections is really going to see you make dramatic progress in business. As soon as you sort of set your mind, no, that's not working for me, or this is not working for me for a couple months, and then you're like, no, I'm just going to can it. Well, really, that's a very short-term way of looking at how to operate a business.
Right. The curtain just comes down, doesn't it? There's no more. So I appreciate that. So we talked about the business coaching. Let's see. And tell me, well, I'll ask you the final question. This has just been really, really good. What's the top piece of advice you would give to another entrepreneur? And I want to say someone that's maybe equal to you, not someone brand new necessarily, because I think it's easier to coach a brand new business because you have the fundamentals, right? What would you coach an already successful entrepreneur on?
Actually, that's surprisingly easy to answer.
Okay.
So not a hard one. So I think one of the things, when you build a level of success, you're making good money. The trap is habits and where you're going to. And this is something that I'm very conscious of right now and where I am at in the business. And that is, I've been involved day to day in the business for so long, and I really enjoy what I do. But you don't buy a business to do that. The business is meant to be working for you not working for the business. And so there needs to be a conscious break where you realize, I am not the business. The business does its own thing. It's an asset in its own self. It's what a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. And so that is, and yet, you can say that, but what is the reality? Are you coming into work every single day? What are you doing outside of work? And that's something that I coach, in a sense, like looking internally, like, yes, I need to basically hand over the reins, and I need to start letting other people become charged. The business needs to be their project, not just my project. And I'm not sure, this is one of my pet peeves, and that is, people put someone like Elon Musk, or they look at, Bill Gates, or these other guys, these are the idols of business and entrepreneurship, and we're meant to follow them. Well, I doubt these guys would ever listen to this podcast, but if they did, I think they would probably even agree that their life is not the example for most people to follow. I mean, these are intense lives that business is all consuming. It's, in a sense, that they wouldn't know how to do anything other than this. I don't think that's a healthy way to live as a human being. I don't think it's actually, certainly not a path to happiness. And I don't believe it's the purpose behind, living a good life is to basically have an ginormous organization making, billions of dollars, and your home life is a disaster and you're a very skewed personality. Again, this is not meant to be personal because everyone's got their own journey. But having said that, I think that is not, it might suit some people to live that way, but the majority, 99.99% of us as business owners, we want to create amazing service. We want to create a very profitable business. We want to help people, but we also want to spend time with our family. There's meanings and purpose outside of business, and you don't want to end up being, in your late 80s and you look at your life like, okay, none of my kids want to talk to me. I have no relationship with my grandkids. I don't know how to do anything. I don't even know how to play golf. I don't know how to do this. I don't need to do it, because all I've done is put my life, my blood, sweat, and tears, and my soul into a business. That's not the way to live life. So that would be my advice, is really say, how do you make this business operate without you? How do you give up the reins and start living a life outside of just the internet? Not that that's not an important part of your life, but it's not the only part of your life. And as business owners, especially if we're successful, that is the big trap, is that you start creating these habits where you're like, well, I'm already rich. I've already got lots of money. Why am I doing the same thing again and again? It's just because I've not done anything else other than that.
Great. The thing I heard you say is, you are not the business entrepreneur. You are not the business. And if we can remember that, and it's a lot of ego too in our businesses, isn't it? We're ego driven.
Yeah. Ego's healthy as long as it's in the right place. So that's the trick. So yeah. So you can't, you can have healthy. When people say, "I don't have ego in business," it's like, well, what are you? Are you air? You are a distinct person. So it is important, but ego has to be in right alignment with the proper values that you have in your life. So if you're realizing that you just have to feed an ego because you want to feel important about, how important do you want to be? Then, and what then? Once you do that, so I like to ask myself that all the question, and then what? I always say, okay, I achieve this, and then what? And if it's a good answer, then I'll do it. But if it's like, if I say, then what? And it's like, well, that's not very satisfying in the end. And then it makes you reconsider whether that is the right path to take.
I love that. And then what? That's great. Great way to end our interview today. Thank you for being on my podcast, for the Epic Entrepreneurs podcast. I appreciate it. You are Damien Boehm, and you're Urban Clean, and 50 franchises that you have in your company, and you're located in Brisbane, Australia. It's been an honor to interview you today. And what I do like about you is I can tell you walk the walk. Love it. Thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thanks so much, Leah. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
See you soon.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for pouring their heart into sharing their journey. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.